I'd like to introduce everybody, if you don't know him already, to a guy that, I gotta be honest, I was turned on to his amazing guitar playing and singing and his amazing Jimi Hendrix show by Frank Hannon, who's supposed to be up here, I thought, but maybe he's not coming until tomorrow. I don't know. I was with Frank last night in Oklahoma. We had a good night. We had a lot of fun. So I know he's here. I'm just not sure where he physically is yet. But anyway, when we were on a cruise, I host a bunch of different rock cruises, and I was on a cruise called the Moody Blues Cruise, and Frank was on more hanging out, and he kept saying to me, you gotta come see Randy Hansen, you gotta come see Randy Hansen. Now I'm an East Coast guy, still born, raised, still live in New Jersey, and I was not aware of Randy's work, and he's like, you gotta come see this guy. And we went out to the pool stage, and I became an immediate fan. This guy is a badass. Give it up for Randy Hansen, everybody. And I always knew from that day forward that Randy was an incredible guitar player, but I also didn't know he was an incredible artist, because Randy just gave me this that he did. Randy, talk a little bit about this, man. You told me you're going to do a comic book, and
yeah, well, I drew that on the plane on the way up here.
That quickly?
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of a fright. I don't like airplanes. I don't like flying, and it helps me to draw when I'm.
Get your mind off of things.
Yeah, it gets my mind off of being on an airplane and everything. But I made a plan that I was going to draw something for you.
Well, I really
knew
appreciate
I was going to see. I wanted to give you something special that I made myself.
Yeah, it's very kind of you. Thank you for doing this, and I really appreciate it. And you are playing. I don't have the schedule in front of me today, right? You're playing.
Yeah, I think at 5 o'clock.
4:45.
4:40. Okay.
4:45. You can see Randy do his thing over on the stage over here, inside, I think,
yeah.
right?
Right.
So Randy, you're a veteran of these. Have you done a few of these guitar festivals?
I've only been to the NAMM show many times, but I've never been. I've many times wanted to come to the Texas Guitar Show, and just never was able to do it. Usually lined up with a tour of Germany, so I ended up in Germany and I couldn't come here.
Oh wow!
But this year I had a lot of time off at home, which I haven't had since I was 18, and I'm 66 years old now. So it was my first real kind of break from playing, because of the virus and everything.
Yeah, I think that's the same story for a lot of musicians. I don't know about. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. It feels great to be out and about and connecting with people and seeing people and talking to people and shaking hands with people.
It's good to see you all.
Yeah, it really is. So thank you.
I missed you.
I'm in like an alternate universe here, because where I live in New Jersey, you still can't be out like this. It's still, so it's been really good. Last night I was in Oklahoma, tonight here, and I got my vaccine, so I'm all good to go. I was jumping at the bit to get out here and connect with everybody, and I must have taken 40, 50 pictures of people walking in. It's like, yeah, man, no problem, because you feel good being out there with everybody. It feels like all the old good times come right back, and we need that. I think we need that. So as long as everybody's being careful and responsible, I think we're all good. So anyway, Randy, anything you want? We're going to take questions. That microphone in the middle of the room is for questions for either myself about anything in my career, or Randy and anything in his career. Or I can't help you with any music questions, because I'm probably the only person in this whole room that doesn't play an instrument.
Maybe you'd just like to do some stand-up.
Yeah, and I don't do stand-up, but I have been in radio and TV for 38 years, so I'm happy to answer anything about that. Anything you might want to ask Randy about is all good. But before we maybe grab some questions from myself or Randy, why don't you tell the audience what you do have coming up? Or are you going to go back out? Do you have shows being booked now?
Yeah, they're starting to rebook shows that we had to cancel and everything. And if you look at my website, if you want to see me and wonder if I'm anywhere near you, they'll be posted on my website, randyhansen.com, and so you can check that out. And it's Hansen with an E-N. Anyway, so a lot of U.S. dates and a lot of European dates and everything. We might even have some Japanese dates because I put out a record or a CD. It's called Fun Town, and I guess they kind of liked it over in Japan, so we might go over visit over there. So,
how long ago did that come out, Randy?
We just put it out about a year ago.
Oh wow! And that's all original material or covers?
Yeah,
or?
It's all original material. I had a really bad flu that lasted for like 3 months, and I thought I was dying, so I went and recorded an album because I thought it was going to be my last chance. But I pulled through. So.
Wow, that's good to hear. Well, look forward to checking out that record. And for those of you that haven't seen Randy before, Randy does a Jimi Hendrix tribute, which is just mind-blowing. Is that what you're going to be doing here today?
Yeah, I'm going to do...
Hendrix set?
Yeah, it'll be a Hendrix set and everything. I'm working on another thing right now. It's a vinyl that we're going to put out. It's going to be 2 songs, a smaller, like, what do you call it, a 7-inch? Yeah, we're going to put out a 7-inch, and it's, one side is going to be, well, one side is a song I wrote. It's called That's What You Do to Me. And then the other song is, I had this idea of taking the lyrics to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and applying them to war pigs. And they fit really good. I'll give you a little sample real quick. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw it, you might even say it glows. And then so on and so forth. It all fits too, the middle part. And then one foggy Christmas Eve.
You shouldn't give that away. Now you just told the whole room full of musicians they're going to go steal the idea from you. Did you record it
You're too
yet?
late. Yeah, we got it recorded. It's all ready, packaged, everything. It's ready to go.
You're going to put it out for Christmas?
Yeah.
That'd be perfect. I'll play that. You got to get that to me. I'll play that for sure. That's awesome.
I played everything on it too. I played the bass and the guitars and the drums and everything on it.
How many of you folks have seen Randy do his show before? All right, if the ones who haven't, trust me, Frank told me to watch him, and I was an immediate fan. You got to go in and watch him when he plays. You'll be blown away. It's truly, truly a great show. And I'm excited. When I heard you were on this, I was really excited because this is the first time I think I'm seeing you on land.
That is right.
Because in the past we were on a cruise.
Always floating.
Yeah, we were floating. And one other thing, Randy, I wanted to ask you about. So I saw a video. Were you playing with some of the guys in Heart?
Yeah, I was in a band called Heart by Heart. It's the drummer and bass player from the original band Heart, who were, the band Heart was instrumental in me being brought to the people because they took me out on tour with them when they heard about me back in 77. What am I talking about? 1977, they came to see me, and then they decided I should tour with them. And so that's how I got going. You know, at the time there weren't really any tribute bands out. We were kind of the first band to do a tribute to a rock musician. Up till that point, there was guys doing tribute to Elvis and stuff, but I was, I guess, the first person to do a tribute to a rock band. And
so you were opening.
I picked Jimi Hendrix because I thought he was the best. You know.
Yeah, for sure. So Randy, you were opening for Heart in '77, doing a Hendrix show.
Yes.
Wow, and yeah, I've not ever really heard of a tribute act opening for a national original band like that.
They did that because I was a novelty at the time. So there was something that nobody else was doing, so they just thought this would be kind of novel to put on before you.
How did you go down with the audience?
It went over really good.
Yeah, I bet you did. That's a hell of a catalog to play.
But, you know, I get a lot of pats on the back, and I have to attribute them all to Jimi. It's really I didn't write any of it. I'm not Jimi Hendrix, and I'm not a genius like he was. I try to keep it in perspective, you know, because I get a lot of people that say they're fans of mine, and I'm humbled by that. You know, it's really great to even be part of this industry in any way, shape, or form. At one point, I just wanted to be a roadie if that was possible, you know. But then things worked out a little bit better for me than probably any of the rock tribute people that are around now today. I've had such a long ride, it's not even funny. But I attribute that to the people that come and see me, you know. So if nobody comes and sees me, I don't have a job. So I really appreciate all the people that have ever come to see me, and all you that are sitting there listening to me, you know, right now. So
one more question for Randy from me, and then again, if you've got questions for me or Randy, you can come up to the microphone. But you know, you mentioned you were one of the first tribute acts to go out and play in that way, and now, of course, tribute bands are everywhere for every band imaginable. Whether the band, even the bands are still obviously active. There's a lot of bands that are still active, and there's multiple tributes to them. If Jimi hadn't passed away, do you think you would have still done a Jimi Hendrix tribute?
No, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it anyway. There's no way I would have done it. Jimi passing away is what cemented me to him. Is the second he passed away, I panicked, and I thought, oh my God, that's the last. He's not going to write another song. That's it. And so I immediately I quit school, and I stayed home all day and played along with my Jimi Hendrix records, mostly the Band of Gypsies record, because that was live Jimi, and I really wanted to get Machine Gun first of all, you know, and then everything else on that record, you know, and then I ended up playing with Buddy Miles and Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding and Billy Cox, and I really, you know, it's like a dream to me, you know. And the guy that taught me to play the guitar, I only started playing the guitar because my father died when I was 10, and a neighbor forcefully grabbed me by my shirt, threw me in a chair, and started forcefully teaching me how to play the guitar. And I didn't even want to play the guitar. I wanted to be a drummer. And but then he taught me in such a way that it was really began to be really intriguing to me. And while he was teaching me, he was training my ear. If he taught me anything, he'd put a record on, and then he'd say, "That's what I just taught you. Hear that chord? Nothing else sounds like a G chord." And then he'd do that with everything he taught me. And by the time he got through with me, I could put on any record and figure out what was going on by listening to it. And so that's how I ended up figuring out how Jimi played a lot of things. And I'm still working on it too. I mean, he did this in 3 years. I'm 66 years old. I've been doing this ever since I was 19. And I still haven't got it all. There's still a lot of things I'm learning of Jimi that I just go, wow, how did one guy come up? He must have done some really good acid to come up with that shit.
Did you ever get a chance to see him play live?
I saw him one time, the last time he played in Seattle, that's where I'm from, and I saw him play at Six Stadium, and that's the last chance I would have got to see him, and I got to see him.
Wow.
I stood directly beneath him with his toes. I saw his toes sticking off the front of the stage, and it was raining out, and the water was dripping off the toes of his boots right onto my forehead. And I was like, this throughout the whole show, you know. But he was, all that I saw was like what you would see. It was like he's playing, and it's like this is what I was seeing, kind of. So I just kept seeing his mouth open. I go, why is he doing that? You know. And I caught mononucleosis from that show too.
That's probably, at that time, that's probably the least offensive thing you could catch. That would probably be the easiest thing to get over.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any questions for Randy or myself? Don't be shy. Always just takes one person to start, and then the floodgates will open. Now I hope we can hear you through the monitors.
What What was
Yes, beautiful. Thank you.
This is for Randy. What was Michael Jackson and Sam Kinison like?
Well, Michael Jackson, a lot of people think I wrote this song called State of Shock.
Yeah.
And BMI started sending me checks for it. And I never wrote the song.
They have you listed as the writer.
Yeah, I know. It's still listed that I wrote it, but I didn't write it. You know, it's really weird.
Did you
I
ever
could
work
have made a
with
lot of
Michael
money off
Jackson?
of it, but
Did you ever work with Michael Jackson?
No, I came close to meeting him one time. I was at Lucas Ranch with Francis Ford Coppola, and he walked in with about 20 people behind him, and he went into a tent and started meeting people like he was Santa Claus.
Wait a minute, I want to back up a second, sir. I'll let you finish your point. Let me get this straight. So you never worked with Michael Jackson, you never met him, you never wrote a song with him, but you have a songwriting credit on one of his albums and get checks.
Right, I did.
That's like hitting the lottery.
I called BMI and told him to stop sending me checks. And
Oh
I
my
sent
God,
the
you're
checks
an honest
back.
man. That's incredible.
I don't want any money I didn't earn.
But did you get a good? Did you at least keep a little bit of it?
No.
How does that happen? Imagine you get a writing credit on him. I mean, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. What else did you want to ask, sir?
I have a question for you. Can you name top 3 rock bands of all time?
My top 3 rock bands of all time?
Yeah.
Wow. Those are always such difficult questions for me. The band that was my gateway band that introduced me to rock music, there's 2. When I was a little kid, I was into like Partridge Family and like teen stuff I'd seen, cartoon music, you know. But then I heard this, 10 years old, I heard this a song on my parents' radio in the car when we were going somewhere. The song's called Go All the Way by the Raspberries. And anybody who's ever heard that song knows that it starts out with a very distorted, heavy guitar riff, and there's really busy drums, and then it breaks into this beautiful melodic part, and then slams back in. And that immediately interested me at 10 years old, because I never heard anything like that. So I became like this crazy, at 10, this crazy fan of the Raspberries, and I went to the record store and I bought their albums, and then that was like for about a year that lasted. And I was walking home from junior high school, and a friend of mine said, we walk by a record store every day, and he said to me, hey, I'm gonna pop in the record store and buy an album, you wanna come in with me? I said, yeah. I said, what do you get? He said, I'm getting a record by this band called Kiss. And this was 1976, and I'd never heard of them, I was 12. And he went in the bin and he's like, so I said, what? Those guys look crazy, like what's the deal there? He goes, they're really cool. He goes, their new album at the time was a record called Rock and Roll Over. And he said, I don't know how this is because it just came out, but if you want to check them out, get the album before this because I know that one is great. And for Kiss fans, you know the one before that is Destroyer. So I bought Destroyer, took it home, put the needle on the record, looked at the cover, Detroit Rock City, it was like game over. The Raspberries were wearing leisure suits on the cover of their album, and there's Kiss like this, and I was all in. So I immediately became like, those were 2 super important bands for me. And then from there, it went to Aerosmith and Van Halen and Black Sabbath and all that sort of stuff. But, and UFO, who I love to this day, one of my all-time favorite bands. But it started, I got the bug by hearing the Raspberries at 10, and then just went completely over the cliff a year or 2 later when I was introduced to Kiss. So those are 2 really important bands, but above and beyond that, it's, you know, it's UFO, it's Van Halen, it's Aerosmith. Aerosmith was the first band after Kiss that I let into my orbit. Because up till like, after I discovered Kiss for the first year or 2, I couldn't listen to any other bands because they would be a threat to Kiss in my young mind. Like, there is no other band. They can't have competition. All bands must stop existing. And then after a couple of years, I'm like, all right. And I got Aerosmith Bootleg, the live album, and I carved out a little section on my wall that wasn't a Kiss poster, and I put the Aerosmith. That was a big move like, okay, I'll let other bands in. So Aerosmith, Kiss, Raspberries, very, very important bands to me. Lamore, sure.
Yeah, I got to talk to you a little bit earlier. I grew up in New Jersey, listening to you on the radio. I was like 13 years old. You would come on at night.
I was even younger. I wish.
I would hit record on my cassette tapes to listen to your shows back then. But anyway, just reading and seeing stuff. Did you work for Megaforce Records at one point? And
Yeah.
can you just kind of elaborate out? Because I was like part of the whole old British militia and
Yeah.
coming in, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's funny because this is Randy was talking about how he started and when he started, and I started in the music industry professionally in 1983, which was the year I got out of high school. And I was just completely consumed with music. And one of my great regrets is I don't play anything. Like, I come to events like this and I'm happy to be here and meet all these great talents like Randy and everybody, but I can't play a note of anything. It's amazingly frustrating to me. One day when I have the time, I'd love to just learn the basics of guitar. But I took some drum lessons early on, got frustrated, didn't stay with it. I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna play music, I just want to be in it and in every way possible help support it, promote it, and create platforms for the stuff that I love. So I started writing really early on. I started working at a record store right out of high school. I started doing radio right out of high school, like everything that I could do. And then when I started doing radio in 1983, I was doing what was considered to be a heavy metal specialty show, 3 hours a week on the weekend. And like Randy was saying, when he started doing a tribute show, there weren't a lot of, or anybody doing tribute bands. When I started doing what was called a metal show back then, there was really hardly anybody else in the country doing a show dedicated to hard rock music. There may have been one or two others, but I wasn't aware of them. So I started that, and it made a lot of impact in that area of the country because people couldn't believe what I was playing on the radio and that there was an outlet for it. And there was an import record store that I used to go to called Rock and Roll Heaven, and the guy who ran the import record store, one day I'm on the air, and I'm only doing radio like for 6 months at this point, and the guy who ran the record store comes knocking on the door of the radio station while I'm doing my radio show. I go to the window, I'm like, what the hell's the guy working at the flea market doing at the store, at my door at this radio station? And he had a bag under his arm with a record in it. He's like, you gotta let me in, you gotta let me in. I knew him, so I was like, yeah, come in. And you gotta remember, in '83, when you're on the radio, there's no computers, there's no, like, you can't push a button like you can now, walk away for half an hour. You're queuing up records, you gotta be there when that record ends. If that song's 3 minutes, you better be there to get the next record ready. So I was really scattered and frantic, because I was very new at the time. And he said to me, I'm not leaving until you give me a chance to play this record on the radio. And I was like, well, just leave it. I'll listen to it later. I'll let you know. He goes, no. You don't understand. I'm not leaving until you play this. This is a band I put my whole life into, all my savings, and I need somebody to give them a chance to play them on the radio. He opens up the bag, and that record was Metallica, Kill 'Em All, the first Metallica album. That time, nobody knew who Metallica was, independent record label, and John Z, who was the guy who did this, who founded Megaforce Records, just like, I'm not leaving until you play something from this, please help me out. So I did. I played the song Jump in the Fire, and he wrote on the cover of the record, Ed, you were the first, thanks for believing, John Z. I still have the record, and he left. And when he left, he said to me, if I can ever get this band to break, I'm going to start the record label and I'm going to hire you to work for me. And I was like, yeah, right. Good luck with that. Because I didn't know what I heard. Like, a lot of people ask me, when you heard Metallica like that, I heard The Future? No, I didn't know what I heard. Like, to me, it sounded like it was just I never heard music that intense. So I didn't think it was good. Here, my early A&R skills, I'm like, that band's not going to go anywhere, right?
It's not commercial.
Yeah, this is like, I'm the only nut that's going to play that band on the radio. And that's the way it was for a couple more years. And sure enough, 3 years later, 1986, he calls me up. And at that point, I had seen that Metallica had gone on to, they just signed to Elektra Records. They were about to put out Master of Puppets. And he called me up, and he was good to his word, and he said, good news and bad news. Good news is, as you know, Metallica is huge now. And I have, because of my settlement, because he had to get paid out, because he had them for management and record label. So they had to make a settlement. So he got a lot of money paid out when they left him. He goes, so with this money, I'm going to start a record company, I'm going to hire you. So the bad news is you won't be working with Metallica because they left me, that's how I'm starting the company. So I'm like, all right, I'm all in. So I was pretty much like one of the first employees for that label. And I was 22. And then I remember thinking, wow, I got it made. I'm going to be making big money working for this cool record company. And the money wasn't great. I was still living at home for a long time. And he gave me the directions to go to the office. And I pull into this residential area. And it was in Old Bridge, New Jersey. And I'm like, I guess we're meeting at his house for coffee before we go to the office. And I walk in, I'm like, where's the office? He goes, see where my daughter's crib is over there? I'm like, yeah. Pull up a phone and sit down next to that crib. That's your office. That's how it started. And then the first thing I did was, you know, at that point the company was very much known for Anthrax, Metallica, Overkill, very heavy stuff. Raven, Manowar. And I was like, I'd like to be able to bring some stuff that we can maybe get played on the radio to the company. So he said, what do you have in mind? Well, reference what we just talked about before, I grew up a huge Kiss fan. So I knew that Ace Frehley was out there. And at that time, nobody would touch Ace because, you know, all the crazy stories, driving the car against the wrong way in traffic and drugs, alcohol, he was viewed as a liability. Nobody would touch him. And I said to John, who was not a Kiss fan, I said, we should try to find him because I think he'd immediately sell records and maybe he's in a better place. And we did. And that was the first artist I signed. To this day, I'm still super close with Ace. I was just at his birthday party a couple weeks ago in Vegas. And we're still very, very close. So it started with Ace, and then we both worked on a band from here in Texas, King's X. We got that signed. And then I signed a couple bands that unfortunately didn't go anywhere. But by like 23, I was vice president of the company. I stayed there for about 4 years. And that's my story of the label end of my career. And it was fun. It was a great experience. But around 90, 91, John's focus started changing more into managing bands than worrying about the label. So we just kind of went different directions. I went more into radio. He went more into management. But I still talk to him. We're all good.
That's a great story, it really is.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pretty... When Metallica went into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they invited 100 people to the induction. And they had a huge party at the House of Blues in Cleveland the night before. And when I say invited, they didn't just say, we'll give you a ticket. They flew everybody, put everybody up. And they were nice enough to invite me. And they had at their party the night before the induction, they had people get up at a podium like this and tell stories. And I told that story. And Lars and James came up to me and they were like, we never knew that. Like, we've known you all that time, but we never knew that was where the connection came in. So it's pretty cool. How you doing?
Hello, my question is for Randy. First, I want to say a big fan, been wanting to see you for a long time. And I have two quick, easy questions. What gauge strings do you use? And are your knobs reversed? Your volume knob and tone knobs, are they reversed?
On my lefty,
Yes.
yeah, I had to reverse them. The Hendrix model, though, is reversed already. But any other lefty that I had that wasn't a Jimi Hendrix Tribute model, I had to reverse myself, yeah.
And what gauge?
And the gauge strings, I use 9 through 46. I used to use 10s, but I got tendonitis.
I'm gonna come check you out somewhere, Seattle somewhere.
I know.
Nearby.
Check him out right here in a couple hours, man. Your mind will be blown. I'm telling you, Randy. I know this is probably an impossible question for you, but what's your favorite Hendrix song to play?
It's called 1983 of Merman I Should Turn to Be.
Why is it your favorite?
Because it goes through so many changes. It has a fast part, it has a slow. It really encompasses just about everything that Jimi ever did, and it's very surreal. The whole song is surreal. It's about going under the water and living underwater in a big city. And so we decided to live underwater.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Hey, question for either of you. Do you have any advice for what a young band should be doing to gain traction in today's environment, get noticed?
Randy,
I have some advice. A long time ago, I was asking the same question to a guy who wrote for the Seattle Times. His name's Pat McDonald. And I said, how do I get you to write about our band? And he goes, well, what about your band is newsworthy? And I said, we're young. And he goes, that's not good enough. And he goes, well, call me back when you figure out what's newsworthy about you. And I never called him back. He called me back when he heard about what I'm doing with Jimi Hendrix. Because this made me newsworthy all of a sudden. So you have to think of something that sets you apart. Even if it's like dressing up like giant carrots or Mr. Potato Head or whatever you're gonna do something that sets you apart and it'll bring notice to you. I always thought, it'd be neat for me. I have a three-piece band. I was thinking there's a lot of three-piece bands. At this point in my career, I'm thinking about getting dressed up as each one of these three-piece bands when I go out and play, and not dressing like Jimi and everything, because I've done this forever, and it would be neat to come out as ZZ Top one night, or the Police, or just really look like something else, ZZ Top would be really fun. Can I have a big long beard? I can't hardly grow a beard, so.
Yeah. I'll tell you, that is without a doubt the #1 challenge. And young bands ask me all the time, like even just to get played on the radio, how do we get your attention? How do we get a chance to be on your show or get played? The deal is, I say all the time, the good news is anyone can make music and distribute it right now. The bad news is anyone can make music and distribute it right now. That's the problem. And because it used to be that if you had a record deal and if you had an album or a CD and you physically come up to me and give it to me, that in and of itself had shown that you had made it through a bunch of different hurdles to just physically be able to produce music. Now with computers and the delivery of music being any way you want, that's all gone. The gatekeepers are gone. So the floodgates are open. It's 1,000 times more congested than it's ever been. And standing out from that pack is unbelievably difficult. So I don't really have the answer, but I like what Randy said, and I agree with it. If you can find something that can be unique and different. But the other thing that I'll say is this, and this is just me being honest. Get somebody to really be able to give you constructive criticism. Because one of the problems that I find so often, and this has happened to me many times, I'll have young bands come up to me with their demo or something and they'll be like, please give us your honest opinion. We really need your honest opinion. And I'll listen to it, and 90% of the time, the songs just aren't that good. And I'll say in a nice way, you got to work on the songs. The songs aren't there. It's not ready yet. And that same person, a lot of the times who begged for an honest opinion, will then quickly go to social media. Eddie Trunk is a dick. He said my band sucks. And I'm like, you cannot win, right? So my point is that every band, like no matter what band or artist you are, you're all surrounded by wife, girlfriend, mother, father, whoever, who are going to naturally be encouraging and supportive, of course, but they may not want to or know to tell you it's just not ready yet. You got to work on it more. So if you can find somebody, and I'm not asking you to do it with me, trust me, I get enough. I have enough problems, but if you can find somebody, a producer, an outside person who's a professional who could really trust it and say and work with you, that's a huge, huge thing. You know, you don't necessarily need a record label, but you need good people around you who know what they're doing and will give it to you straight and help you better your craft. Because too often I hear, well, they look great or the guy plays amazing, but at the end of the day, it always comes down to the songs. And I'm sure Randy would agree with this.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have spent decades playing Hendrix if they weren't great songs.
Yeah. I would also say that look at the person that you don't look at him as criticism as much as a conspirator, somebody who's going to conspire with you to make it better. You know, and that's what they're usually doing and a lot of good producers like that will give you the answer to what is missing and stuff because they know what's missing. Especially if it's somebody who's got a really good track record, you know, where they've touched other bands. A lot of problem though to get somebody like I had a Capitol record out years ago and I wanted Todd Rundgren to be the producer. But then I found out he wanted a lot of money to produce your record and stuff. So I ended up with the guy that was managing me. His name's David Rubinson, and he had produced a lot of hit records and everything. So I just went with him, you know, and the record got played on the radio. It didn't really do much, but in David being not that great of a guy, I ended up firing him for some things that he did to me business-wise that were not too cool. That I found out, I busted him on some things and stuff. And so he was managing me and producing me, and he owned the studio also. And I met him when I worked on Apocalypse Now. He was producing Apocalypse Now at the time. So, I mean, I was in cahoots with some very powerful people and everything, and that helps a lot. You know, if you can get to know some people that really know the business, that'll help you a lot.
Yeah, obviously there's no set formula. There's examples and opposite examples of everything. There have been bands that had every piece in place and it didn't happen, and there's bands against all odds, obviously, that just became big. I mean, there's so many different ways. It's just if you can get a trusted ally. You know, Frank Hannon, who I was with last night and is here today, Frank's doing some stuff where he's working with young bands and producing them. And he's got an artist playing with them when he does his set named JT Loux. And he's got a singer named Dino who has a band called Red Voodoo. These guys are really young. They're like 18, 19, 20 years old. And, you know, Frank's taking them under his wing. And we were talking last night at dinner, and the same thing. It's just like they're working on songs. And it's great to have the guy from Tesla helping you out or whatever. That's all great stuff. But at the end of the day, the songs and everything has to align. And it's just so difficult because it's more crowded out there than ever, as you know. And now I find for bands, it's not even about trying to sell the music. It's about just getting people to know it exists and listen to it. Like the idea of making money from selling it, sadly, is like not even talked about. It's just how many streams can just hear it, and maybe you'll come to the show. So good luck to you. I mean, it's a difficult thing, but hopefully you'll find the formula.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Stoney Curtis in the house. That's another badass right back there. You playing, Stoney? Huh? I want to tell everybody to come see you if you're playing. You're just hanging? You're a man who should have a guitar in his hand, man, not this thing. What are you doing? Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. So this is a question for Randy, and I hope this isn't like kind of putting you on the spot. I remember when you were kind of breaking through, and you obviously had the Hendrix thing working with you. At the same time, as I recall, John Butcher Axis was out. Frank Marino was doing kind of some crossover Hendrix kind of stuff. So did
Right.
you feel a camaraderie, or was it a competition? You know, was it a good thing or a bad thing?
I felt a real camaraderie with those guys. I ended up meeting both of them, and they were really super nice people. You know, just aside from being musicians, I always want to know that if who I'm talking to is all right, you know, because in this business, your ego can get really out of whack if you're not careful. And I met some of those people too. They'll go nameless, but.
Come on, Randy, who's the biggest dick you ever met, man?
Well, yeah, I don't want to say that, but
No,
Jack
I
Blades is a real asshole. Okay.
Jack Blades? Really?
Oh, you don't want to know that guy.
I know him really well.
You do?
Yeah.
He's a total dick to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me text Jack right now. See what the fuck's going on.
Get him on the phone. I want to talk to him.
Really? Jack is. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I will have a word with him.
And I noticed that the whole band. Well, not the whole band.
How long ago was this?
About 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have a word
I
with
saw
Jack.
him in the lobby of a hotel that we were both staying in, and they were saying we don't like this hotel, and then we were following. They were following us on our tour to different places, and we were going to the same hotels. It was really weird, and even the maids were going, "We don't like these guys."
Wow. Who knew Night Ranger, high maintenance?
I said, "Short sheet them then."
Sister Christian, high maintenance. Who knew? Anybody else with a question?
Thank you.
I got one for you, Eddie. I've been wanting to do this ever since that metal show, and I haven't gotten to see it, but I wanted to see if I could stump you.
Oh, here we go. This could turn. This is going to go into a really big rabbit hole right now.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's nothing Kiss.
What do you? Well, that would be good if it was,
Yeah,
because
it
I
would.
know a lot of Kiss stuff.
Who comprised the original lineup of Iron Maiden?
Well, pre-first album or on the first album?
Pre-first album.
Oh, I don't. There's like 5 different guys in there. I don't remember. I could give you the first album lineup, but I don't know before the first album.
It was.
Look, wait. I love when people do this because he goes to his phone. He goes, "Well, it was like what a genius!" Like he's on Google. Like, wow, that's hell of a job by you, buddy. I know all the answers.
I usually know it by heart, but I've not memorized it.
Welcome to my life for 14 seasons of TV. Oh, I know the answer. What is it?
It's obviously Steve Harris. He's the founder.
Right.
And let's see, Ron Matthews, Terry Rance, and Paul Day.
I'll take your word for it.
And Ron Matthews.
I got a bumper sticker for you as a prize. You want a sticker? There you go. I was giving these out to everybody anyway, but you can have one.
You guys signed this.
You did?
Yeah, with Metallica, with
Iron Maiden?
Iron Maiden, yeah.
Randy just said he was signed. Wait a minute, sir, I got a question for you. Who was signed to Capitol the same day as Iron Maiden in 1980? Give me the sticker back. No. He's sitting right here. Randy Hansen, ladies and gentlemen.
We drank champagne together.
Wow. Anybody else with any questions? You have one more? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'm looking forward to hearing it. I haven't heard of you, so not to take anything away from you sitting at the table. And I know, Eddie, you've been influential all the way through music and where it's evolved to today. And well, not to it's today, but where it evolved to when it was solid. And now it's kind of everywhere. And so my question to you is, where do you see the next foundation for driving music forward? You know, because we lost radio kind of to streaming and 100 stations, and we've lost live music a little bit. It hasn't come back yet. We've lost albums, CDs, everything is a song instead of a collection. And, you know, it's kind of up in the air what's going to happen next, but you're one of those people that I'm
Cassettes are coming back. Cassettes are next. Wait, you guys laugh? I wish I was kidding you. In the last couple weeks, I've been sent 3 new albums on cassette. I swear. Anybody out there right now that is, if you have not yet dumped your CDs, I'm a big CD guy. It's still my favorite format by a mile. But there's a lot of people like, nobody wants CDs anymore. I'm going to get rid of them all. Think about all of you guys that did that with your albums 20 years ago, 30 years ago when CDs came out. And now I got friends who are buying box sets of albums for $400 and the original pressing from 73 of something on eBay for 150. CDs aren't going anywhere and will make a huge comeback. People already want the ones in the long cardboard boxes, but that makes sense because CD is still a digital format. Cassettes are a thing again. There's about 100,000, over 100,000 cassettes of new music were sold in America alone, and that was a couple years ago. Now you got, we just read about a band releasing a box set on cassette. So all these formats are coming back, but I think
cassette player manufacturing is going to come back there too, right?
Actually a band, here's a true story, a band from Mexico recently sent me their demo, and they sent it to me on cassette, and I was like, what am I going to do with this? And the next day, before I could even say anything publicly, a cassette player arrived to play the cassette in, very creatively branded with their band, so it made me remember them. But yeah, it's, I mean, I don't think that was really your question, but I don't know what the driver of, like, music's gonna be. In the 80s, obviously, MTV was the biggest single force. Radio, I still think, does mean a lot to a lot of people. But then again, we're in a world where you can hear any song you want, anytime you want, on your phone. So I think when it comes to it, if it's satellite radio, seeing who it is on your screen, or regular radio, the DJ saying that was whoever and that's whoever, I think, and this is a word that's used a lot, but I think it is important, and that the word is curation, meaning that somebody gives you more information about it to make you get more invested in it, than do something more than what you can just pull up on a stream and clicking through stuff. And you know, I don't know how many people know, but for the last 4 years, I've been doing a rock talk show every day on Sirius XM. It's on live 1 to 3 local time on a channel called Volume, which is an all music talk channel. We don't actually play music. All we do is do interviews and talk about it. We'll play a little clip of a song here and there, but that's really important because you can, if you hear me talk to an artist, you can go immediately and hear their music in a second on your phone. But to get to know more about that artist and the background of the music and where they're coming from and give it more of a personal connection is, to me, I think, way more important now in radio than just saying, here's a clump of 10 songs, because you can do that anywhere.
I think the future of music is going to be, what do you call it, USB implants.
Well, Joe Satriani he was on that metal show when he put this out, and I don't know if anybody who's ever seen this, but it's a little skull, like literally like this big, of his shaved head with sunglasses on, and he came on that metal show and he put this little skull down, and I go, Joe, what's that? I mean, I know that's your head, but what is it? He goes, that's every song I ever recorded in studio master quality broadcast files. And I'm like, it's a little metal skull, what are you talking about? And he had sunglasses on, and you pulled the sunglasses out, and it was a SD, it was like a drive, and every file was in high definition on this drive. He's like, you plug that in your computer, you got every song I ever made. So you're right, you're not far off. Yeah. It was actually in Joe's head, but not the statue of Joe.
Yeah, right.
But knowing Joe, he might try to plug it into his real head. Sammy Hagar says he's an alien, so. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Hey, I've been playing in for a long time. That show.
Thank you.
And with Jim Quarantine and
Don.
Yeah. Really cool. My question is, I always saw a lot of electric guitar players. I've got nothing against electric guitar players, but you're going to have actually an acoustic guitar player that does kind of like the same format as an electric guitar player on your show. You have them on the stairs. they're going to have an acoustic guitar player?
Oh, you're asking if we ever had an acoustic guitar player in the stands? No. The idea of that spot, so what he's talking about is on my old TV show, on that metal show, we had a guitar player in the stands and they would always play us into breaks. Now, if you notice when you watch the show, those guitar players never ever played any of their riffs or any of their original music. And there was a reason for that, because we worked on a really small budget. And as most people know, if you use an artist's published music in a TV show, you've got to clear it and pay for it. And the network wasn't willing to do that because it was just going to cost us too much money. So every guitar player, we had tons of amazing guys in that spot, were specifically told and had to sign a waiver that they never would play anything that was a published piece of music. So it was a lot of like, you know, shreddy stuff and showing off, but that's what that moment was for, to do. So we never entertained the idea of doing acoustic because it was always about going up there and going off and showing off for 30 seconds. And we had some great players, and that idea came to us to do that because in the first season, Yngwie Malmsteen was a guest on the show. And Yngwie came in and he brought his guitar with him. And I said to him, I'm like, Yngwie, you're not playing, you're just talking. And he's like, no, I want to play, man. Let's put a little lamp next to me. And I'm like, we're not set up for that. And he's like, Yngwie doesn't take no for an answer. So he's like, no, so we scrambled and we went to SIR, we got a little rig for him, and he put the amp, and he just had the guitar on his lap the whole time we talked to him. And going out to one of the breaks, I go, Yngwie, why don't you do something on that as we went to break? And he did. He did Yngwie being Yngwie. He's like, and then the next season, we're like, that might be a cool spot to showcase guitar players, maybe put some people up there that aren't household names, but would give them a good opportunity to be seen. And that, so it was a little bit everything. It was everybody from Yngwie to George Lynch to Ted Nugent.
John
Five, who's a dear friend to this day. And by the way, he texted me a couple days ago and he goes, how come I'm not at that Dallas guitar thing? I was like, I don't know. So we'll try to get John here next time.
Yeah.
But John Five, more than, and I mean this with all respect to all the players who did that, some of them really went for it and owned it and got it and are good at that freelance like fireworks. George Lynch was another one who killed doing it. But John was without a doubt the guy who got the most mileage out of that, did it the most amount of times, and floored people, because people who knew John knew him as the guitar player in Rob Zombie or the guitar player in Marilyn Manson. Neither band showcases lead guitar playing at all. So when they saw John up there playing chicken picking and all this shit, every time he did it, whoever was sitting on the set with me, whether it was Sammy, Hagar, or whoever, would lean in after his first break and go, who the hell is that guy? And so did the audience. So John got a tremendous amount of exposure out of that. That was, that was a really big platform for him. And, we're still great friends to this day, but he really owned it. And in all honesty, there are great guitar players that went up there and did that just wasn't how they're wired, and they didn't do well with it at all. Doesn't mean they're not great players, but they just couldn't do that. Somebody like Warren DeMartini, amazing guitar player, but that's not his thing, and he was like a fish out of water. A guy who's a personal friend and one of my favorites is Richie Coxen, and Richie is a genius in my opinion. And I gave him 2 shots at doing it, and I'm like, Richie Coxen, and he'd go, bling, 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 and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I want this. And he's like, no, but so there's guys that really dug in and got it and went for it, and there's other guys that just, out of a song context, they just kind of were like a little lost.
Would that still be entertaining anyway, or that should be an opportunity for acoustic guitars to do it anyway, or is that pretty much no guys? Sorry, just gotta have electric guys on.
I can't hear you over the music.
I said basically, would that be an opportunity for acoustic guitars to do it, if there was opportunity to do it? Or is that more or less, sorry guys, it's got to be electric guitars, guys / girls only?
Yeah, if I'm hearing you right, I mean, we definitely wanted a big electric guitar moment there. But if the show had continued, and should it ever come back, I'd be totally, I mean, ultimately, we would have loved to have bands play songs. But that's a whole publishing issue and a lot more involved.
No, but you know, like I said, if there would be an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Would there be opportunity? So
yes.
Because like you said, the guys sign a waiver and blah 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 blah. And some people like myself, I'm a acoustic guitarist myself.
Yeah.
I would love to do that, but I'm trying to get my brand out and all like that.
I'll make a deal with you right now. If I can ever get the show back on the air, I'll have you on to play acoustic guitar in one of the breaks right now.
I would love that. I would love it.
So call Netflix for me right now, will you? Let's make the deal.
I can give you my card and give you.
No, but I'm serious. I would do it. Like as we went forward, we had drummers. We had a few drummers up there.
I remember
we were going to maybe do a keyboard player at one point, and ultimately we wanted to have a band. I think I saw Frank back there. Frank Hannon did it a couple times. Frank, I think, rocked a theremin when he did it. I remember him setting up a theremin, and he like really went for it. So guys got real creative and had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, I totally would do an acoustic set.
I got a card on me right now, Mr. Trump.
I need the show to come back first. Right now, I don't have a place to put you. So email me when you see the show come back on.
I definitely will.
All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate
it.
Thank you.
I think we're out of time. This had a wrap at 3:30. So I think we're good, right? Randy, anything you want to tell everybody?
Peace, love, and understanding. That's it.
All right, so folks, Randy is playing at 4:45. I'm telling you, do not miss this man. I am going to be there front and center. I can't wait to see him do his thing. And then you've got Frank Hannon at 6:15, and then the All-Star Jam, and I'm already losing my voice. So thank you all for coming by. I got some stickers. They're free. Help yourself, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'll be around.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Randy.